If you're new to the idea of rental arbitrage, getting a property on board is usually the largest barrier to entry in this business. The advantages of running an Airbnb without owning property are substantial, and in order to successfully use Airbnb rental arbitrage or sublet your spare room as an Airbnb, one of the most difficult hurdles to overcome is convincing the landlord to allow you to sublet or use it for short-term rentals such as an Airbnb. That's why in this video, I'll tell you exactly how to pitch landlords on Airbnb. And if you stay until the end of the video, you'll get a step-by-step guide on how the conversation should be structured. At present, there are at least 150 million Airbnb guests and users in nearly 8 million properties listed on Airbnb that are run by 4 million hosts. Airbnb has become a billion-dollar industry with millions benefiting from it. With stats like that, it comes as no surprise that serious property investors, property managers, and hosts who are looking to earn passive income are setting their sights on rental properties to turn them into successful Airbnb properties. One of the many popular versatile forms of investing in Airbnb is rental arbitrage, or letting out a spare room in your already rented property. What is Airbnb rental arbitrage? Airbnb rental arbitrage is a practice of renting a property or multiple properties and then subletting them on short rental platforms such as Airbnb. The first thing you must do when implementing this strategy is to prepare your pitch to a potential landlord. Here are a few points you need to know prior to talking to your landlord. Get familiar with the rules and regulations. Understand what contracts and rules apply to you before you start hosting. These include leases, condominium rules, homeowner association rules, or rules established by tenant associations. Be sure to read any rules about guests or subletting and ask your landlord if you have any questions. It is your responsibility to understand and abide by these rules before deciding on listing your space. Understand the landlord's perspective. In order to understand the landlord's point of view, you must first understand his perspective. It's not unusual for people to rent their homes on Airbnb. This is a great way for people to make money. However, in this situation, you do not own the property. First, you need to understand how the average landlord views his investment property. Investing in long-term rental properties is considered low risk and a good source of income over time. It's also important to consider all the reasons why your landlord decided to rent long-term. Most landlords see their properties as a long-term, fixed income stream, so there's no reason to invest more energy and time into them. An absolute worst-case scenario for a landlord would be property damage or eviction of a tenant. Nonetheless, tenants can be replaced and property damage can be covered by insurance. This is a low-risk investment. Now, reverse the roles and imagine that you are the owner of the property. You put a lot of effort into getting it ready to lease, and now you've found an interesting tenant. However, the tenant-to-be is requesting to sublet the property and let strangers in and out of their space for their own profit. They just went from a safe and low-risk property to a very high-risk property. However, this conversation can be turned into a positive one if you have a proper game plan and approach the landlord with a solid business-minded plan. You can calm the shock of your request with solid reasons to list it as an Airbnb. Lead the conversation. Remember that what you're about to discuss with your landlord is a form of negotiation. Take a moment to consider your stance as a tenant before you start the discussion. Here's a quick question guide to help you prep for the convo. What is your relationship with the landlord? How long have you been a tenant of this particular landlord? Does the landlord know about Airbnb and how it works? What is the rental market like in that particular neighborhood? Does your landlord own many other properties? How fast can your landlord replace you with a new tenant? Bearing these questions in mind and weighing out the pros and cons of the potential answers, you will be ready to have this dialogue with your landlord. Engage in a hearty conversation. This is a form of negotiation, so you need to approach it carefully and as a healthy conversation, not as a business pitch. Engage them in a discussion and ask their opinions, thoughts, and concerns. Meet them in person. Though it may not always be possible, try your best to have this conversation in person. Phone calls and emails don't often convey nonverbal signals. You can question your landlord about his or her behavior if what you say makes him or her look angry. This may lead you to uncover an objection you hadn't anticipated. Prepare for the meeting with information in hand. Present your proposal with as much transparency as possible. Explain the Airbnb business model and how you plan to conduct your business. Have a plan to explain how you will mitigate potential risks that may arise and what reassurance you can provide in order to ensure the safety of the property if your landlord is averse to potential risks. Listen and be open to suggestions from your landlord. To begin, you may want to ask about their opinions on Airbnb. Using this method, you can find out what they know, what misconceptions they need to dispel, or what remedies you can apply to any problems they anticipate. Be sincere. Describe your plans honestly and upfront. Assume that there are some risks, but that you're willing to cooperate, so this is a win-win situation for both of you. Being dishonest will damage the goodwill you've built and could lead to their withdrawal of consent. How to deal with common objections from your landlord. You will hopefully learn why the landlord isn't comfortable letting you sublet the property during the conversation. Here are some common questions a landlord may have and how to overcome them. Are these activities legal in my city? At this point of discussion, based on the prior research, you already have the answer to this question. If there are no legal restrictions, you can ease the landlord's mind on this question and scratch it off the list. The risk is too high since the current insurance policy does not cover damages. Let your landlord know how Airbnb is a community built on trust, with trust and safety resources like the $1 million host guarantee and the $1 million host protection policy. You can take your additional rental insurance and include the clause in the contract that you are responsible for any damages. Different insurance offers are available depending on the market. A larger security deposit can also be negotiated. More guests equal faster depreciation and an increased risk of damage. The majority of your guests are either on vacation with their families or on business trips, so they are rarely in the building. The property is constantly cleaned before and after each stay. Taking care of the property is quite extensive, and if it isn't done right, you risk getting bad reviews. All minor damages will be fixed to avoid negatively impacting the business. What's in it for the landlord? Probably the last question would be what's in it for the landlord. You can offer to share profits and give them a percentage of each booking, which would yield them a higher rent. Other ways you can get help to make the landlord gain more benefit is offer to prepay a few months' rent up front. Offer to purchase your own vacation rental insurance. Increase the size of your security deposit. Offer to extend your lease. Create solid rules that work for all. Collaborate with your landlord to set guidelines about when and how you'll host guests to make them feel part of the process. You can show your commitment to being a responsible host by ensuring you will take the necessary steps for neighbors to be comfortable with you hosting on Airbnb. This way, if they can feel more in control, it will be much easier for them to agree if they have a say in the matter. Let me know in the comments if you're ready to start your very own Airbnb arbitrage business. Subscribe so you don't miss the next video, and if you made it to this point, watch this video next where I will provide a complete script on how to convince a landlord to Airbnb their property. With the right approach, you will start making money in no time. So I'll see you in the next video.